During Desert Storm, there was a record amount of black participation in that operation, which was a highly successful operation. 48% of all of the females in Desert Storm were African American females. And another thing is that 40% of all the ground troops in Desert Storm were African Americans, which gives you an idea of the percentage of participations African Americans had during Desert Storm, which was tremendous.
The military today is still one of the most integrated sectors in American society. I think there's been some concern at the fewer number of African Americans who are rising to the senior ranks, officer ranks. And there's been a decline in African American enlistment relative to sort of the very high numbers in the 1970s and 80s. And I think some of that decline has been the war. There's some reluctance in some parts of the African American community to join the military because of the war and opposition to the war. I also think on a more positive aspect, I think there's greater opportunity for African Americans.
Today, the military is probably the most level playing field of any institution in the country. The military has done an incredible job of eliminating institutional racism. The only types of problems of racism that the military deals with today is individual racism, and that's racism on the part of individuals. And the military has a very difficult time dealing with that. But however, as a whole, I would say that there is as little or less racism in the military than any other institution in the country, which makes the military a great place for African Americans, and it always has been.
Many young blacks would not have had a place to have a decent living without the armed services. It was the place where they turned their lives around. We feel that today the military is a source, even now, of great hope for minorities and particularly the black.
We can do anything that we want to do. There isn't any reason why we can't accomplish or achieve any goal that we set our minds to. I know that I will get a fair chance at anything that I decide to do, and that's how it should be.
Since 1954, the role of African Americans in our nation's military has grown significantly. As the all-volunteer force replaced the draft in 1973, African American enlistment in the military soared, making up about 17% of the enlisted force. It jumped to 24% by the early 1980s. Vernice Armour, a helicopter pilot for the Marines, became the first black woman in combat during the Gulf War in the early 1990s. In 1999, Major Shauna R. Kimbrell became the first African-American woman fighter pilot in the U.S. Air Force. General Colin Powell rose to international prominence with his role in pushing Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait. Powell was the nation's first African-American four-star general, as well as the only black man to have served as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. On January 20th, 2009, Barack Obama was sworn in as Commander-in-Chief, the first black man in American history to become President of the United States of America, positioning African Americans for even greater achievement.
Recognizing the contributions of African Americans in the defense of this nation over the course of its history is what I consider to be one of the most critical aspects of black history. There have been millions of African Americans who have fought, bled, and died for this country. And as a result of that, I think it's important for our young people to know the sacrifices that their forefathers made to make this country the great country that it is today.
It is the responsibility of all future generations to remember the sacrifices so many have fought and died for when protecting our freedom. The color of skin does not matter when it comes to sacrifice. The only color that truly matters is the color of blood.